Hello, welcome to the next recipe that you're going to be making. So today you're going to be making muffins. So there's lots of different variations that you can make for this. So you could do chocolate chip muffins, you could do apple muffins, you could do blueberry muffins, banana muffins, it's up to you. Okay. The basic recipe is on page 56 of the school recipe book, along with the method for you to follow, and of course this video that you can watch back and follow this as well. So you will need, for your recipe, some self-raising flour. You will need 250 grams of self-raising flour. You will need 5 milliliters or 1 level teaspoon of baking powder. You will need 85 grams of sugar and 1 egg. And you will need 240 milliliters of milk. Okay, now remember, when you're measuring out milk or any liquid, you make sure that you have the jug on a flat surface and you check the measurements after the liquid has settled into the jug. You will then also need either 85 grams of margarine, or you could use 90 milliliters of oil. So I'm using oil today. If you're using margarine, then you need to melt that. You could either melt it in the microwave or you could melt it in a saucepan on the hob. Be very, very careful when using a saucepan on the hob that the pan handle is always turned in so you do not knock it off. You will need 12 muffin cases, so I'm using these silicone muffin cases here. So put those into a muffin tin in preparation. And you will need to make sure that your oven is preheated to gas mark 5. So my oven is already preheated there to gas mark 5. Okay. Alright, so I'm just going to move the camera down so you can see what I'm doing. And let's get started. Make sure that you have washed your hands for at least 20 seconds. You've got a clear work area, you've got a clean apron on. If you've got long hair, you're tying your long hair back and you've got all of your equipment out ready. Okay. Right, the first thing then that you're going to do is add the flour into a large bowl. So that's my 250 grams of flour being added into my large bowl. You're then going to add in your baking powder. So there's my baking powder already measured out. And you're going to add in your sugar. Okay, you'll notice here I'm only adding in the dried ingredients. It's important that you mix together the dry ingredients first. You combine the wet ingredients separately and then you mix them together. Okay, now I've said I'm using self-raising flour and baking powder. Okay, the reason for that, we want the muffins to have a really good rise on there. Baking powder is a chemical raising agent. Okay, it's going to help those muffins rise and give a really nice texture by releasing carbon dioxide gas into the mixture to help those muffins rise. Okay, so you've got some baking powder in the self-raising flour already, but you're adding a little bit more to give a really good rise on those muffins. Okay, so that's my dried ingredients combined. All right. Now onto my wet ingredients. So that's my milk, my oil or melted margarine, and my egg. Okay, so in a small bowl you're going to crack your egg. So 2 taps on the side of the bowl. Where it's cracked, get your thumbs in there and just pull it apart. Make sure you put any rubbish into the bin, keeping your work area nice and clear. Remember, clean it as you go at all times. Give that egg a quick whisk. And then I'm going to add this into my milk. And I'm going to add in my oil or the melted margarine, depending on what you're using. Combine all of those together. And then you're going to add this into your dried mix. Okay, so make a well in the center. If you are using additional ingredients like chocolate chips, for example, so I've got some chocolate chips here, I'm going to add those in as well into my dried ingredients. add your apple in here if you're making apple muffins. Okay, make a hole in the centre, or it's called making a well in the centre of your dried ingredients, and then pour in your liquid ingredients into the dried ingredients. So pour all of that in. Okay, you want to give this a mix. Now it's really important that you do not over mix this, okay? You want it to look lumpy. So if you have porridge in the mornings, for example, for breakfast, you want it to look a little bit like porridge. Okay, it's really important that you do not over mix this. If you do, then your muffins will be dense, they will be heavy, they will be flat. Okay, so just turn over the ingredients, combining it all evenly. You're not whisking, you're just gently combining them all together. So you can see it looks a little bit lumpy, that's perfect. But make sure all of the dried ingredients are mixed in with the wet ingredients, so get right at the bottom of the bowl. Okay, once you've done that, so it shouldn't take much longer than 20 or 30 seconds just to do that process. Okay, once you've done that, you get your muffin tin with your cases in, and then you start to fill these up. You want to fill them up to about 3/4 full. Okay, because remember they're going to rise, so you want to give them some space to rise. So using a tablespoon and a spatula, or you could just use 2 tablespoons, you want to get a spoon of the mixture and just place that into the muffin cases, and you're going to do that for all 12 of the muffins. Okay, so make sure you scrape out all of the bowl as much as you can, so you're not wasting any of the ingredients. Okay, if you've got any spare leftover ingredients, just go over the cases just to top them up a little bit. Alright, so there's my muffins all filled, all ready to go into the oven. So these want to be cooked for about 20 to 25 minutes on a preheated oven of gas mark 5 or 200 degrees C. Remember that you will always use oven gloves, not only when taking things out of the oven, but also when putting things into the oven as well. Make sure that you're only cooking when you have an adult present, and everything is being used safely. Alright, so these are going to go in the oven now for about 20 minutes. And I'll see you back here in 20 minutes. Hello, welcome back. So that's been about 20 minutes. My muffins should now be cooked and ready to take out of the oven. So again, as a reminder, oven gloves must be used at all times when taking things out of the oven. Make sure your hands are right inside the oven gloves and they are not wet. Okay, never use wet oven gloves. Okay, so let's have a look at these muffins. Make sure the oven door is nice and wide. We're taking the tray out with 2 hands. You've got a cooling mat ready, so you don't want to be putting a hot tray straight onto your work surface. So I've got a cooling rack. Close the oven door and turn off the oven once you have finished, and then we can check to see if these are ready. So to check to see if they're done, they need to be golden brown like the way that these look now, and then when you touch the top very, very slightly, they're nice and springy, okay, and they are perfect. Alright, so I'm going to let them cool down just in the tray for 5 minutes before taking them out of this tray and then put them on the cooling rack. So I'm just going to leave those for 5 minutes. Alright, they've been cooling down for 5 minutes, and now I'm going to put these onto my cooling rack to cool down properly before I then enjoy these tasty muffins. Okay, so I hope you enjoy cooking those. I'm looking forward to seeing your photos and seeing the comments that people have written about what they say with regards to the taste, the smell, the aroma, and the flavour. Okay, thanks guys, bye.